Welcome back, and let us now move to our first panel, Financing the Sustainability Transition of the WEFE Nexus Under Climate Crisis. First, let us announce some housekeeping rules and say a few words on the features of the event platform. On your right, there is the Manage bar. If it is suspended, please click on the toggle to unhide so you can ask your questions at the Q&A section. Please introduce yourself at the beginning. There is a raise hand feature to request to comment and/or get invited live on stage. At the bottom of your screen, you can use the emoticons feature. Please be mindful the event is recorded and will be uploaded on Greek Scientist Society YouTube channel. The event is also streamed on Facebook and YouTube, so please send us your questions to pass them to the speakers as well as on the LinkedIn live event page. Let me now present the moderator of our conference, Dr. Dimitris Korpakis. Dimitri Korpakis is an independent expert writing and talking on innovation, growth, and technological change. An engineer and planner by training, he has more than 30 years' experience on the European integration process. Dimitri worked extensively on the European Commission in Brussels, as well as for the Greek civil service. Prior to retiring from the European Commission, Dimitri led the unit on the regional dimension of innovation, Directorate General for Research and Innovation. As of 2018, Dimitri co-founded FOS, Friends of Smart Specialization, an informal advocacy group. Dimitri is a former member of the Executive Committee of the International Triple Helix Association, a fellow of the Regional Studies Association, and a senior research fellow of the Southeast European Research Centre, a research centre of City College, University of York, Europe campus. His current research interests focus on the links between smart specialization and Industry 4.0, global value chains, and regional innovation ecosystems. The floor is yours, Dr. Korpakis.
Thank you very much, Christo, for this presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I would like to welcome you to our first panel that will focus on the financial aspects of the green transition under the ongoing climate crisis and under the lens of the WEFE Nexus. You already heard about the Nexus from our keynote speaker, but let me stress a few points to set the scene for the first round of talks. Yesterday, the largest United Nations conference on water opened in New York. The theme for World Water Day 2023 is Accelerating Change to Solve the Water and Sanitation Crisis. The theme emphasizes the requirement for stern action to protect the world from the water crisis. Just imagine some stark realities. Billions of people and countless schools, businesses, healthcare centers, farms, and factories don't have access to safe water and sanitation they need. There's an urgent need to accelerate change to go beyond business as usual and provide safely managed water and sanitation by 2030. Now, never in the history of humanity has the world faced so many environmental threats. Climate change is now called a climate emergency. However, we can take positive action. Climate, ecosystems, and society are all interconnected. Effective and equitable conservation of the Earth's land, fresh water, and ocean will help ensure a healthy planet. This brings me to the WEFE Nexus for water, energy, food, and ecosystems. This is an approach that, as you know, integrates management and governance across the complex but interlinked sectors of food, energy, water, and ecosystems. So when we talk about the Nexus approach, we understand better the interdependencies across sectors and the ecosystems with a view to improving integrated solutions in the field that improve achievement of the SDGs. So this afternoon we have three excellent speakers in this panel, and let me present them briefly. First, we have Mr. Leonidas Christopoulos, who is the Secretary General for Digital Governance and Simplification of Procedures at the Ministry of Digital Governance of Greece. Mr. Christopoulos has worked as an advisor to several ministers as well as to the President of the governing party in the field of reform for public administration. He has coordinated significant public administration reform projects in Greece, such as the reorganization of the Greek central administration, the reduction of administrative burden in several policy areas, the public financial management agenda, and the new law on the executive state. Then we will have Professor Kostas Papanikolas, who is the former president of the Cyprus Institute, an institute professor and the CEO of the Cyprus Research and Educational Foundation. Professor Emeritus at the University of Athens, Greece, and adjunct professor at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, United States of America. He's advisor to the President of the Republic of Cyprus on climate change and special envoy for climate change. He served at the National Advisory Board on Science and Technology of the Hellenic Republic and the Research and Innovation Council of the Republic of Cyprus. He has also researched and published extensively in the area of nuclear, particle, and medical physics, in energy policy, solar energy, and in educational policy. Last but not least, we have Dr. Konrad Landis, who is a senior researcher and adjunct lecturer at the Athens University of Economics and Business. IFORIA Group. By the way, IFORIA is a beautiful acronym, and in Greek it means sustainability. Mr. Landis is a postdoc researcher at the Research Laboratory on Socioeconomic and Environmental Sustainability of the Athens University of Economics and Business, and a researcher at Athena Research Center, Sustainable Development Unit. He's adjunct professor at the Master of Science, Magic and Finance in Athens University of Economics and Business. I could go on because our speakers are very much entitled in many areas, but I would like now to give the floor to Mr. Christopoulos for his first intervention. Mr. Christopoulos, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Firstly, I would like to thank you for the invitation, of course. It is an honor to be here today as a representative of the Prime Minister of Greece at the inaugural conference of the Greek Scientist Society. And I really and I warmly congratulate the Society for this initiative. In my opinion, it is a very important conference focused on a matter of great relevance in today's world. As you may all know, better than me, that Europe is determined to be the first continent to achieve climate neutrality. In this context, Europe must achieve carbon neutrality by 2050. The transitional target of reducing emissions by 55% by the end of 2030 is even more ambitious for Europe. And of course, in this context, the green transition is, let's say, I would call it a one-way decision for the government of Kyriakos Mitsotakis. Our strategy on green transition is undisputable and enduring. It comes as evidence to the fact that the Greek government took bold initiatives in the direction of climate change and combating climate change before returning to the public debate with vigor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. First and above all, we launched a swift and bold delignitization program, as the Prime Minister had already announced to the United Nations back in September of 2019. As a result, we have significantly reduced our carbon footprint, and the Greek Public Power Corporation company was able to accelerate the implementation of a striking transformation program. Undoubtedly, Greece is marked on the European map as a country, and that is our ambition, at the forefront of the rapid transition towards renewable energy sources. I could also give you another example, which is the Polar Park in Kozani, which is one of the largest in Europe and the largest in Southeast Europe. It generates enough energy to power 75,000 homes, clearing the atmosphere from an estimate of 300,000 tons of carbon dioxide. Furthermore, we succeeded in making Greece an international leader in successful integration of renewable energy sources into our energy production quota. Greece is ranked second right now in the world in terms of the attractiveness of investments in renewable energy sources, when GDP, of course, is taken into account, according to a recent EY study. And furthermore, Greece is ranked 16th among the world's top 40 economies in the overall Renewable Energy Investment Attractiveness Index, rising 5 places from the 21st to the 16th place since the April edition. The 16th position is the highest Greece has ever achieved in the index's 30-year history. The country's renewable energy capacity, which is currently at 10 gigawatts, will nearly triple by 2013. Greece is transforming into a green energy hub, and we are very happy that we can um, implement such a policy, and we ensure not only our energy sufficiency, but also we are trying to allow us to expand our export activity. The 2019 Climate and Energy National Plan, featuring the priorities and policy measures in a wide range of development and economic activities for the benefit of society, positioned Greece at the forefront of international action on climate change and elevated Greece's role and importance on the global stage. The National Energy and Climate Plan is already being revised. In fact, Greece was the first European country to officially begin the revision process. At the same time, the new Greek climate law, Law 4936 of 2022, establishes a consistent governance framework, for improving the country's adaptive capacity and climate resilience, as well as ensuring the country's gradual transition to climate neutrality by 2050 in the most environmentally sustainable, socially just, and cost-effective manner. The climate law commits the country to climate neutrality, which means net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050, with the intermediate goals of 55% reduction by 2030 and 80% reduction by 2040. So we're truly fortunate that the funds required to meet these needs are absolutely available. We have several financial tools like the Just Transition Fund, the Recovery Fund, the new NSRF, and the National the Cohesion Funds, and the Island Decarbonization Fund that will provide us over 15 billion euro until, let's say, 2027, 2028 in grants or subsidies for green actions. And I should also emphasize that when the recovery fund's low interest loans are taken into account, the total amount of available funds is much higher. Of course, this capital has the potential to leverage 2 to 3 times the amount of private investment funds. As a result, the funds are sufficient, in our opinion, to achieve our goals. To be more specific, the green transition is one of the main pillars of our national recovery and resilience plans in Greece 2.0. The Ministry of Environment and Energy has prioritized projects and actions related to this pillar, planning 44 sub-projects with a total budget of 8.6 billion euros, 4.4 billion of which are recovery fund grants. And because this is not our only financial tool, we should also include the 3.6 billion euro from the cohesion funds, from the ESPA funds as we call them, and slightly less than 2 billion euro from the Just Transition Fund to the available resources. Greece demonstrates that it can be a country capable of leading with bold decisions supported by the majority of Greek society through smart policies, collaboration with the private sector, and mobilization of public resources. It's a strategy that we have followed in the digital realm, and we are also following in our green agenda realm. What is required is to define a master plan that will turn the green transition not into a forced process, I would say, of compliance with abstract European goals, but into a dynamic process that will essentially launch a new model of development for the country. A new development that provides opportunities for better jobs, a higher quality of life, and a new balance in our relationship with the natural environment, which unfortunately is in danger of being permanently disrupted due to our sole responsibility. Thank you very much for the opportunity of opening up with those remarks, and I'm open to the questions that will follow later. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Christopoulos. I would proceed now without delay to our second speaker, Professor Papanikolaou. I remind speakers we have still 30 minutes to go, so please make sure that we have also time for some debate. Thank you very much, Professor Papanikolaou. You have the floor.
I would like to show some transparencies. I assume they will be projected now. So first, I would like to congratulate the organizers for this wonderful and exciting meeting, and I'm grateful for making me part of it. Yesterday news already, our convener mentioned, this meeting happens at the same time that the UN meeting on water, making headline news. This from CNN, highlighting the tremendous challenge in the frontier of water that our planet will be facing. Just the various factoids there, 2.5 billion people in cities, not people in the countryside, will be facing shortages of some sort of water. This is, of course, essential for the WEFE Nexus. The WEFE Nexus, this is very important, emerged as a key concept during the evolution of the climate crisis. As we mature, this nexus is achieving its prominence. It is significance, though, is exemplified only when we link it to the driving mechanism, which is climate change in this case. Different scenarios need to be examined, and its effects on socioeconomic impacts. For example, let's consider, for example, migration, a big threat that will be the result of a catastrophic WEFE scenario. To achieve this, to understand this, we need robust, sophisticated modeling, and which implies very sophisticated computational resources, analytical and understanding of the science, and accurate data. Let me highlight this with these two transparencies. The first one shows comes out of our institute. The modeling team is the most precise right now modeling of the Eastern Mediterranean, Middle East projection. It shows that the business as usual scenario leads to a catastrophe, 5 to 6 degrees above the pre-industrial level, while there is hope if we adhere to the Paris Agreement. These are robust with error bars, as you can see, projections. Based on this, we have a compass to develop the various approaches. When it comes to water, next transparency, you see the same models give very big errors, although the trends are there. The forecast of decline because of climate from 5 to 40%, but the uncertainty is big. And as you can understand, now propagating this further to modeling how this will affect food it's impossible. We don't have the modeling capability. We don't have the data to calibrate the models, and therefore the conjecture of WEFE stays as a conjecture. It cannot be quantified. It's a huge challenge, a necessary tool for Cyprus, Greece, and everybody. Now, Cyprus is addressing, like every other EU country, through the various funding tools, mostly EU. They were mentioned by the minister, and the same tools are available to the Cyprus government. However, let me raise an issue. The WEFE Nexus is addressed in a fragmented way in Cyprus, I believe in all European countries, because there is no WEFE ministry. There is the Ministry of Energy, there is the Ministry of Agriculture, on and on. And therefore, in Cyprus, and I suspect in every European country, the cohesion and savings that will emerge if the nexus is understood and planned together is lost because of this administrative fracturing. Next. The main elements of the energy strategy Cyprus is basically similar to Greece. They are aligned with the targets of the European Union, the Fit for 55, the 2030 and 2050 goals. I would like to highlight the last bullet, which is part of the plan, because it has something special. Electricity interconnection with Europe and Israel, Europe meaning Greece in this case, and through Greece to the rest of the European Union, by 2028 to enhance energy security and enhance faster penetration of renewables. Please note that this, even though it's on the Cyprus plan, is a transboundary action. It involves two other countries, Israel and Greece, and therefore it's an excellent example of a need that I want to highlight, that addressing the WEFE challenges needs regional and transboundary actions. Let me say a few words about the water strategy, which is different because water, energy, and food nexus varies depending on climate. It's very different in Northern Europe. This nexus takes a different meaning in Netherlands, very different in Cyprus. Even within countries, it's very different for Epirus in Greece vis-a-vis Crete. So climate regionality is important. The water strategy in Cyprus is local because Cyprus is isolated. So transboundary water, which is 70% of the issue in the Middle East, is absent because we are an island. So it focuses on efficient capture of rainfall, managing it in the most efficient way, and we rely on heavy desalination because there are years that really will become totally dry, and the last resource is desalinated water. The challenge there is to drive desalination through renewable energy sources, and in the near future, manage the brine not to go into the sea where it destroys the ecosystem. Regionality, I want to highlight that. There are plenty of examples where the regionality is abundantly clear, and the solution relies on a regionality. The Egypt-Ethiopia big conflict about the Nile and the dam in Ethiopia, the Iraq, Turkey, Iran, where Turkey and Iran are depriving Mesopotamia, Iraq, of water, a land that was very rich in water because of the controlling the upstream flow. Israel, the Palestinian Authority, and the Jordan, especially vis-a-vis the Jordan River. And there is a beautiful solution proposed, the Green-Blue Deal. I don't have time to go into it. And Cyprus. The Cyprus, Israel, Greece, Turkey are issue that are countries that can provide the solution, but also, given the politics, and as in many of the countries mentioned, dominate, and they weaponize actually this need. So instead of providing a solution, they exacerbate the problem. So here is the need for climate diplomacy, hydro diplomacy, WEFE diplomacy. Next. Let me conclude by mentioning the regional action led by the Cyprus government for the Eastern Mediterranean Middle East Climate Change Initiative. It reached, after 4 years, climax at COP27 at Sharm el-Sheikh, where 10 heads of state, including Prime Minister Mitsotakis, Sisi, and the President of Cyprus, signed a declaration and an intent to work together, including WEFE, to address the regional component and the transboundary needed actions to address the problem. Next, I will conclude by, these are pictures from the COP27, the summit I just mentioned, by saying that the motto, the words of the COP27, together for implementation, fit very well the WEFE challenge, especially its transboundary and regional component. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Papanikolas, for a very, very rich presentation. Now I turn to Dr. Landis for his presentation. Dr. Landis, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm really happy to be here. So the water, energy, food, and ecosystem nexus is nowadays more than relevant. The struggle of resources is a source of potential conflict in numerous regions in the world, and there are competing demands for water, which causing conflict between sectors and countries, where the available water resources are often limited. So climate change also has increasing effects on people and ecosystems, which is reinforced by the rising demand for water due to population, economic growth, and high temperature. So these challenges today need to be addressed by ensuring a better management of the interlinked sectors of water, energy, and food. And this actually needs to be done in an integrated, transboundary, of course, financially sustainable and equitable way, and by enhancing cooperation across borders. So I will grab this opportunity to briefly present you a couple of our projects that we're working on the Mediterranean region. So first, in Daphne, which is Horizon 2020 funded project, we developed a decision analytic framework to support decision and policy making in transboundary resources management. So Daphne explores sustainable and integrated pathways for the management of water, energy, and food, focusing, of course, on the transboundary setup. So by integrated, we mean it accommodates hydrological, economic, social, environmental policy, and governance models, and it aims in assessing robust water management alternatives, pathways, of course, in close collaboration with local stakeholders, So as an initial case study, we had worked in two transboundary river basins in Africa, in Zambezi and Omo River Basin. So our framework mainly consists of four modules. So first we have the models of economic developments, which integrate also the valuation of the underlying water-related ecosystem services, where these models actually describe the economic development pathways and their dependency with the water resource availability. So here several cooperative versus non-cooperative scenarios have been tested between upstream and downstream countries in river basins. And the optimal water use policy functions were estimated. So simulations in both river basins show that countries that adopt cooperative water abstraction solutions, then the social welfare increases. And of course, the integrity and the sustainability of the ecosystem is also maintained. Apart from the models of economic developments, we use models for the models of water governance and environmental policies, where on the other hand, these models identify the key legal local principles, and on the other hand, they determine the coverage given to environmental issues locally, as well as identify gaps to legislation or the level of synchronization between countries. So finally, these models are also reinforced by the models of demographic, cultural, and social developments, where these models identify particular trends, cultural, demographic, or social, and which may have direct or indirect effect and impact. So all of these four modules consist of an integrated system, an integrated framework, where we integrate that into a unique module and under the WEFE Nexus perspective, which is a holistic actually framework to map the interconnected relationship between all of these models and sectors. And of course, the identification of optimal sustainable pathways should be also be supported by financing pathways, so by portfolios of financing solutions that are able to support this transition. So at the follow-up project, which is what we're working right now at the Mediterranean region, we built on this framework, applied to the Mediterranean countries. And also at the same time, we are working on other projects as Arsinoi, which again, Horizon 2020 20 project where we work on Greece, Cyprus, and Spain in developing financial instruments and financing and portfolios of financing solutions which will be adequate to support climate change adaptation and mitigation plans and support sustainable pathways. Thank you so much.
Thank you for this presentation, Dr. Landis. Now we have some time for questions. And I would like also to encourage our audience to put some questions in the chat. Of course, if we have time, we are going to address them, or if I will try to aggregate them to put them to our speakers in a better format. So I would like to start by asking Dr. Christopoulos that gave us a very, very convincing picture for Greece towards the green transition. Do you believe that the country has now a solid roadmap to allow a realistic green future? Because we have also seen that there are possible difficulties. Furthermore, do you think that we have the necessary financial resources for that to make this happen? Of course, you have outlined different sources, but do you think that all this is necessary for this to happen? Thank you.
Well, yes, without a doubt, the national plan that we have on climate and energy, and the climate law, of course, form the necessary governance framework, let's call it, for discussing the green future in realistic terms. But there is something even more significant, in my opinion: the political will, the prime minister, the prime minister's commitment in putting the green transition strategy into action. Further to that, I would like to emphasize that the new national plan significantly broadens the scope of our ambition to address climate change, following the European Union's lead, of course. So in this context, the reduction in emissions from 40% to 55% by 2030 will be achieved primarily through the use of renewable energy sources. Now, in terms of, I think that in terms of funding, it would be vital that we should secure, the necessary public resources to fund this transition. And I suppose that we are on the right path in doing so. That in terms that we were the second in Europe to submit our resilience and recovery fund proposal, and we received, as a country, many compliments on the actual quality and inspiration of our plan. So in addition, we submitted our second payment request, and we have already dispersed the second installment thereof. The loan amounts that were approved, they were approved almost 6 months prior to the deadline. And while the payment request for the third installment is imminent. So furthermore, in terms of the new NSRF, the new ESPA, we're not only the first in Europe to submit a concrete plan, but we also maintain the lead in the absorption of funds, which is, I would say, a very new, a very innovative, let's say, situation for the Greek public administration. And finally, as previously stated, we are implementing this island the decarbonization fund, a distinct, let's say, financing line for the green transition and decarbonization of our islands that consists of the free allocation of almost 25 million carbon dioxide allowances. With the most conservative estimates, this fund will allow us to raise 1.5 billion euro. However, with today's price of around 100 euro per ton, the fundraising could potentially rise to 2.5 billion euro. So I don't know if I have answered the question in a certain way, but I think that yes, we have developed the necessary roadmap. There is the political will. We can talk realistically about a green future from the Greek perspective, and we have the resources, and mainly we have distributed the resources in such a way that we can talk about a potential success in achieving our green future.
Thank you. That's very interesting and that's very, very encouraging. I would like now to turn to Professor Papanikolaou. You have referred to regional and transboundary actions that appear to be a key factor for addressing the Nexus challenges. Can you talk us a little bit about the efforts that are made to implement and fund such actions? Because that's, I think it's a critical factor. Thank you.
Indeed, it's critical and very difficult. While transboundary actions are recognized as a key to addressing the climate crisis overall, and we in the WEFE Nexus, water is, as I said, in the Middle East, 70% of the resources are transboundary. Energy sharing, either in terms of electricity or natural gas or hydrogen in the future, are important. There is some understanding of the issues. In certain cases, they are well understood, but really there are no mechanisms in place to fund such actions. It's a big elephant, and we don't know how to get the elephant out of the room. I talked to several governments. They even big funding organizations and rich countries like United States, Germany, World Bank. They know how to deal on a nation-to-nation basis. They know how to deal with Jordan. They know how to deal with Israel. They know how to deal with the Palestinian Authority. But putting transboundary problems on and financing them, there is very little experience and very few mechanisms in place to address them. This is not only for the Middle East, it's a global issue, and it affects also Cyprus in this particular case. Greece, I don't know exactly, but if we look at the overall, because climate is a global challenge, we cannot solve the problem nationally. This big challenge is there, and the mechanisms are not even in place, and the big players admit they don't even know how to really come to a quick solution on how to fund such actions, even if there is the willingness to do so.
Thank you. That's really interesting, and I think this will be a critical point for the future, and something that the international organizations in the international community must address. I have a question to Dr. Landis because I've been very much impressed with the projects that you have shown that show how important it is to look to all these projects in the Mediterranean basin. So what would you see the challenges for the application of such integrated frameworks in the Mediterranean?
Well, the main challenge it's for sure cross-sectoral collaboration, and there's definitely many barriers to transboundary cooperation also. And these problems are reinforced by the complexity and incompatibility of the current institutional structures. And there are gaps in there are serious gaps in legislation. So all of these problems and structural issues, I think they can be, if we have a greater recognition of the sectoral interdependencies, then it will help us to overcome these barriers.
Thank you very much. We have some time left, and I see that already in the chat we have a few questions. I have a first question that concerns Cyprus that probably Professor Papanikolaou would be most well placed to respond to. And you might have already seen it. Says, I have a question about Cyprus from Mr. Paleologos. The Turkish part of Cyprus is connected with the mainland of Turkey with a pipe for water supply. Is the Greek part being supplied with water from this pipe?
Very interesting question. I would like to correct the wording, though. There is no Turkish part of Cyprus or Greek
Yes.
part. There is the Republic of Cyprus and the occupied area. The jargon aside, it's a very interesting project. No, the Republic of Cyprus does not want to receive any of that because it's one of these issues that Turkey does not recognize as the Republic. Therefore, you cannot deal with a provider who does not recognize you. And actually, it may weaponize, as it happens in many countries, weaponize the water or the energy to use it, as we have seen is happening with the war in Ukraine, or as Erdogan said several years ago, that the Arab states have energy, we have water as a political weapon. And we see the problems that Iraq, which I alluded to, is facing because the Turkey controls, and Iran to a certain degree, the flow of water to Iraq, which exerts tremendous political pressure if you are dependent on such supplies. This is what I mentioned very laconically earlier, that unless this is structured in a very well understood way where this does not lead to politicization and weaponization of sharing these resources, it is a problem. This is the case for water from Turkey, who has abundant water. And by the way, the project is technically flawed, has not worked anyway, but that's a technical issue. But it showcases both the opportunities and the challenges in such necessary, in my view, transboundary sharing of resources.
Thank you very much. We have still very few moments left, but maybe we could respond, maybe Dr. Landis, to the question we have. What efforts you think the Russian invasion of Ukraine will have in the short or long period in the Nexus?
For sure, we had an increase in energy prices. So I think as this war needs to stop as soon as possible, so we are returned back to normal.
Right. We have a second question concerning Greece and especially the tourist and maritime transportation industry. How do you think this affects the whole issue of sustainability? Probably Mr. Christopoulos would like to say something.
Well, I suppose that our touristic industry is, of course, based on the maritime transportation. It is included in the actions that this government needs to do on having a fleet working in a sustainable way. I know that the competent ministries are working on that, because generally trying to construct a general governance framework for the green transition and the climate change. A lot of ministries are cooperating in trying to see what their own agenda can offer to the successful implementation of the roadmap, and to be able to be successful with our targets. So I would say that the roadmap for the fleet to work in a sustainable way is already under the biggest, let's say, the bigger umbrella of the whole strategy that the government has on the green transition.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank all our speakers for also keeping the time, which is a challenging issue whenever you have a meeting like this, happening also online and from different corners of the world. So I would like to conclude here this first panel. I invite everybody to join us on the second panel right away, and you do that, as you know, by going to the schedule and join the backstage, the second session. Thank you very much, and see you in a minute.
Thank you all of you.